Hey everyone, Tony Dragon here, and real quickly I want to review Apocalypse. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times at this point, and that's because a lot was going on throughout the whole movie, and when I tried to analyze it, I kept coming up with the same idea, and I wanted to make sure that was the correct one, and I wasn't looking too deep into it. And I want to get, and that's kind of one of the reasons this review is going to be so late. And I'm doing it right before I go see TMN 2, which it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Alright, so first and foremost, did I have fun with this movie? Yes. X-Men Apocalypse is a fun movie. It's a lot of fun. It's really one you want to go see with your friends. You know, you're going to have a good laugh, you're going to have a good scare, you're going to have, a lot of action. And honestly, I came out of that theater satisfied. But as soon as I started looking into the story and how everything, progressed, it kind of felt like a comic book series. Not in the good way. I know the movie is, based on a comic book, but it's supposed to feel like a movie. This one felt like it was a 5-part comic book series. The first four parts was really quick paced, a lot of character, a lot of jokes, a lot of story progression, and it really felt really quick. Those first almost an hour 40 minutes just flew by, and I almost didn't notice it at all. I was just like, wow. But as soon as we got to the 5th part, it really dragged on, and that was because there was very little dialogue and just an overly saturated action sequence. And while it was well coordinated, it really didn't progress much in terms of the characters. If anything, it was used as a tool to build up a future movie. And then I realized, during that time it was dragging on, I was holding back questions. And then they finally came out, and the biggest one that always came up first was, why Apocalypse? Why so soon? Why here? For the X-Men's first real mission. And I know what you're saying. The first X-Men were the first class guys. Okay, I'm talking about the first classic X-Men we know and love. Cyclops, Jean Grey, not technically Nightcrawler, he didn't show up until much later. There was no Iceman either. And then there was Quicksilver, and then Mystique. And I'm thinking, why is this their first mission? Now, I know from a viewer standpoint, we've been waiting for this for 10 years. We've been with X-Men for a long time, and we've been waiting for Apocalypse to show up. And we didn't want to go through a whole origin story again and waiting another 3 movies before we got Apocalypse. But looking at the story, this is too soon. These kids are just barely learning how to control their powers, and now we just got rid of Apocalypse. Don't get me wrong, Apocalypse was great. I love seeing him on screen. They got a great actor to play him. He had a lot of charisma. He had a lot of presentation. He had just this presence that really screamed intimidating. He had power, but he was not really. He didn't really feel welcome here in this movie, and that's kind of a shame, because certain moments felt intrusive when he showed up, and that was the biggest one for me was Magneto. When we first see Magneto finally breaking down, his family being killed, he's going through this turmoil, and we're thinking, wow, this is really heavy. This is a great time to really build on his character. And then all of a sudden, Apocalypse shows up to recruit him. And yeah, I had the same reaction as Magneto. I was like, the fuck? Like, who are you? Why are you here? And even then, it really felt like this was trying to be an origin story for the X-Men. A really character building moment for Magneto, and a movie about the relationship between him and Charles, and really kind of building that bridge again. And all of a sudden, Apocalypse just shows up, and he's kind of just here to give us an excuse to have great big action sequence. Because when it came to the characters, they were all well written, they were all well acted. Michael Fassbender, again, great job. The only real actors I had problems with were the ones chosen for uh, Archangel and Mystique. Now, let's start with Archangel. The actor himself was not bad. He looked great. But he didn't have much dialogue. He didn't have much purpose. He was just there to kind of fill out the Four Horsemen. You know, because he was beaten by Nightcrawler before, and then he ends up fighting Nightcrawler again, only to lose again. So, yeah, what was the point of Archangel? He was just there to, be the fourth. If they couldn't find out, they couldn't figure out who else to be the fourth to, or at least, give him much dialogue. So they just said, pick someone who's kind of, not really that important in terms of character, and put him in there, and they chose Archangel for some reason. In terms of Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, she's a great actress. There's no denying that at this point. She's a great actress. She's done some great work. However, she just didn't come off as Mystique to me. It almost felt like she was Katniss all over again, and that's kind of weird saying because I myself never watched the movies, or at least all the Hunger Game movies in their entirety. I only really saw the first one and saw all the trailers for all the ones after that, but I still had this feeling of Katniss from her, and it's probably because of the whole you're a hero thing. Everyone looks up to you. You can guide them. They need you, and it really just felt weird hearing that about hearing that being said about Mystique of all people. Now I understand this is a different universe, time travel wise. Everything's been reset, and now she's no longer a villain. And it might just be my bias that I'm so used to seeing Mystique as a villain that I don't, feel comfortable with her having been turned into the hero, the main leader for the X-Men. Now here she's not interested in future X-Men movies, so it's possible that they'll find a new actress, and the excuse will be, because it's Mystique, she can change her form. That'll be kind of genius if that happens. But honestly, I wouldn't be sad if Jennifer Lawrence did leave because she had too much of a presence as the Hunger Games, spokesperson, that I just couldn't see past that. Maybe it was just that the parts were written too similarly that I couldn't escape that fact, or maybe just Jennifer Lawrence is too well known for the Hunger Game movies that she couldn't break away from that too soon. So, yeah, it really felt kind of like they couldn't escape that fact. At least with the previous movie, Days of Future Past, I can still see past that because she was in the blue makeup a lot of the times. And I think that really would have helped her in this movie. Other than that, the production value for this was great. The setting, all the locations fit the tone perfectly. Really matched up with, what the characters are going through for that moment. The outfits for the last 5 minutes were fantastic, which is sad because the ones they had for the majority of the battle were kind of generic. They were the black flight suits, but then we got a glimpse of the X-Men outfits at the end, and I'm thinking like, why didn't we have these? And I'm thinking story-wise it wouldn't make sense, but it would have been so cool. But at least now I'm excited for future movies because I'm going to be able to see those, X-Men outfits. And they look amazing. Honestly, and where they got the black flight suits, Weapon X, yeah, that whole sequence from beginning to end was weird. Now, it was great. It really showcased Apocalypse's intimidation factor. When he got rid of all the nukes, that was genius. And his speech, again, bone-chilling. I just loved it. He really, cemented himself as a great villain. And then, as soon as he took Charles, immediately I'm supposed to be afraid for Charles and afraid what's going to happen because the mansion's about to blow up. And all of a sudden, I'm laughing out loud because Quicksilver's here giving us the best scene I've ever seen. Holy shit, this was an amazing scene. I loved watching it from beginning to end, and I watch it again and again online. It's an amazing, well-done scene. Yeah, and it really shows that Quicksilver is just a great character, and a lot of people are saying now when he needs a solo movie, and I wouldn't fault them if they decided to do so. But again, like I said, the roller coaster of emotions is just going everywhere here. And for 1 minute, I'm supposed to be intimidated and scared of Apocalypse, and the next minute, I'm laughing out loud at just how hilarious Quicksilver is. And while emotions are supposed to keep you on your toes, they're supposed to at least allow you to process these emotions in a certain amount of time. And they don't really do that because as soon as that comedy is over, we're immediately we're hit with another drama bomb. Scott Summers' brother, Havoc, dead. Holy shit, what? And they don't even show us a body. They give Scott like a 45 seconds of grieving and crying. But yeah, as soon as we get to Weapon X, we just kind of forget about that whole thing. I mean, later on it's brought up again about how Havoc was a great person, but again, it just, was not, it was completely overshadowed by the rest of the movie. And it really feels like his death was mostly just a plot point, just to get rid of another character so they can have Cyclops. Because if they have Havoc, what's the point of Cyclops? And it was not hidden very well. And again, like with Weapon X, I know they're trying to start off another Wolverine movie in the future. The rumor being it's going to be Old Man Logan. I have no idea how that's going to go. But again, Weapon X was probably not necessary in terms of the story. It felt like it was possibly put in there as an Easter egg just to give us something to look at. They even had to go out so far as to have the end credit scene connected to the Weapon X project to give us something to look towards to in the future. But honestly, that end credit scene was very confusing for a lot of the mainstream audience. So, thankfully they have the comic book fans out there to let people know this is what it means. So, apparently we're getting Mr. Sinister next time. And this became even more of a problem because, as I said before, Apocalypse is dead now. He's gone. And I know a lot of hopeful people out there are saying, no, he's not. Even if he wasn't, the X-Men beat him. These teenagers, these newbies, these green, very little battle experience, teenagers beat Apocalypse. What's next? I mean, Mr. Sinister is great. I mean, he has a lot of connection to the cast we know, and to the cast, to Scott Summers and Jean Grey and a lot of other mutants. But yeah, he's based on Apocalypse, giving him a lot of power too, and Apocalypse, learning something new from Mr. Sinister. But now that Apocalypse is being taken out of the equation, Mr. Sinister just won't feel up to snuff to villains of the past. And of course, we have the build-up with Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force. While it was great, it kind of felt like a Deus Ex Machina, and it just came out and defeated Apocalypse for everyone and built up the next movie. Or at least the third movie in the series. Because I know Bryan Singer's excited to get to the Phoenix Force, but it didn't need to feel so rushed. Because Apocalypse felt like there could have been so many movies building up to this one. As I said before, Magneto went through a lot of turmoil, and there could have been a whole movie about that. Maybe this movie about the first X-Men coming together could have been Magneto's tirade on the world for killing his family, and the X-Men had to join together to stop him. That would have been fine. I mean, we would have seen it before, sure, but hell, with these great characters, I wouldn't have minded seeing them again. Kind of reimagining the first movie. The X-Men band together to stop Magneto from destroying the world, and it's all because his family was just killed right in front of him, and now he's angry, and he's trying to take that anger out on everyone. That would have been fine. Or maybe an origin story about Apocalypse, because it really seemed like there was a lot of backstory about him that would have really made him even better as a villain. And like I said, there were so many opportunities, and as soon as I started realizing that, made me feel, okay, as fun as a movie this was, looking into the story kind of disappointed me because of how many other movies could have come from this. But instead, we're stuck with a streamline of movies rather than branching off to, separate movies, which they can do with such a huge cast as big as X-Men. And they're just focusing on Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, and again to the Phoenix Force, instead of branching off to multiple movies, or at least having multiple movies lead up to Apocalypse. And yeah, in that sense, this was a rush job. And while it was a great entertaining rush job, it was a rush job nonetheless. So, but as I said before, it's a fun movie. It's entertaining. A lot of great comedy. A lot of great characters. Because despite all these problems, almost everything was really well done. Like I said, the production's value, exceptional. Actors chosen for the characters, spot on. Like I said, there are only really 2 character actors that didn't feel natural, and that was not really their fault. They're still great actors, and you'll still get great moments from them. A lot of great comedy, a lot of great dialogue, a lot of great turmoil for all these characters, and it was all well put together, but still brought the question as to why Apocalypse? Why so soon? We could have had so much more from this storyline, but we won't. Even if they do bring Apocalypse back, he's not going to feel as big of a threat anymore because he was beaten by the most basic of the X-Men team. Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Quicksilver, Beast, Mystique, and Charles Xavier, to some extent. But, as I said, it was a fun movie. Either way, you're going to have fun. Yes, I recommend go watching it. Go take your friends, get some popcorn. You're going to laugh, you're going to have a great time. So, that's really all I can say about this movie. So next time I see you guys will probably be for the TMNT 2 Out of the Shadows movie. That one really looks like a lot of fun. So we'll see how that goes. So until then, I'm Tony Dragon. Bye bye.